I've noticed that despite everything, I haven't really played a whole lot of demos throughout Steam, and the ones I haven't really thought about ever since. So now I've been recently trying to fix that. I've been listing as many demos as possible that I have played, so I don't forget them. And I even walked through the trench of my recommendations. There's a surprising amount of AI pornography trash in here, but that's not really the point. I just want to showcase something you maybe haven't seen while you were browsing through that yourself. And I might as well start with the first on the list, Hyper Team Recon. I was surprised by how neat and free this sort of feels. Movement is incredibly smooth, and they made a lot out of the current transformations they have for right now. I'm really interested in where this is going to go. The world is there too, everything is completely vibrant in every single stage, and while they're gigantic, these stages feel pretty bulky and substantial. Besides that, there's probably not too much to mention about how it plays. I guess they'll add more as it goes along, and I'm sure most of that depth will come in all the sort of characters you can transform into. While the dialogue bits are solid, I don't totally connect with them because the main trio all feel sorta similar in traits and character. I don't know, maybe they'll slowly get to know each other in the future, but right now, I didn't totally get too much out of it, even if it was funny every now and then. Not too much else to say about it, that's a quick rundown, although you can really tell there was a lot of care put into it. There's even a couple costumes to go through, which I always like seeing. I don't know when it releases, although I'll be ready for when it does. My current verdict is just that it's a generally solid experience. After that point, I tried out Kill the Music, which is basically just a horde survival with a rhythm theming to it. The first thing I really like is that it sort of adds something to this subgenre at hand. I don't typically like horde survival if I haven't already told you people already. There's not too much to it when it comes to actually playing other than movement, and thankfully this finds a bit of an idea around that. As you expect, you have to follow a beat to keep up, and while this seems simple at first, it sort of adds more and more onto it, which I really like how that's paced. I was already enjoying the general loop of bobbing and weaving and thinking on my feet, and choosing which enemies to prioritize in any given moment, and then I found out there's a dodge option too, which just opens a new window of variety. Another interesting thing this does is sort of box you in as you play. The main area might seem a bit basic at first, considering you have to go through it every single time with no change, although there's something interesting about this once I think about it a bit more. Moving on from that, I liked the character cast quite a bit. There's enough to keep them all different and balanced, I'd say. I was a little confused at first why they all blend into one character when you actually make your selection, although I think after reading this Steam page a little bit, I kinda get what they're going for. I'm sure it's probably just a budgetary thing. Either way, I can kind of vibe with it. I played around with Sarah for a bit until I actually realized you could just change your character from the menu, at which point all my subsequent runs were with Emily, mainly just because of that projectile, but also I kinda really like drums. My current verdict is that it's consistently pretty good. Not too much to write home about. I'll get back to you on that one. Next up is Scarlet City of Devils, and while I did really enjoy this one, I'll keep this one short and sweet just because I've explored about as much as I could with this, really. Overall, it doesn't seem like too much at the start. I do think it's plenty for a demo length, and it's got just enough to keep that length going, although I'd like to see more when I actually get the full game, which by the way will be out by the time I finish this video. It's nothing too flashy, you just dodge, fight, and explore to your heart's content. It's a pretty standard formula, and there's not too many enemies or moves to really make it stand out. It has a few things going for it right off the bat though. Combat is generally flowy, and it teaches you a couple things, like being able to heal off enemies if you take a risk. This could stand to have a few things like a few more combat gimmicks like the falling blocks, or a bit more chemistry between its cast of characters, but I'll have to tell everyone what I think when I actually try out the full release. For now, I'll keep this one short. It's alright. Now here's one I've been following for like a year now, Neo Junk City, and when I played this, I was really excited by the potential this could have. Now this might seem like a good old standard point and click, and by all means it is, though there's not really anything wrong with that, and I believe there's more than meets the eye. If you like narrative games, you're no doubt familiar with the idea of a weighted choice system. You know, randomly decided choices, and it seems like this is what Neo Junk City is trying to do, and I really like that because it's a concept worth exploring. It seems like they really want to make you think about everything as much as you can, what choices you make, who you talk to, or whether or not you ask questions or shoot. There is so much I can imagine being explored in here, not just the concept of justice, but also the concept of robotics. Your character is a machine, and I'd love to see that be discussed and sort of established into the world. I mean, it already has been throughout this demo, and I do enjoy that. There's a lot to work with here, and while it's not taking itself too seriously judging by the dialogue, I have a feeling this could potentially evolve into something. Besides all that, this plays incredibly well for a demo. The overworld is really interesting and chock full of things to do and people to talk to. The atmosphere and setting are pretty bright and hopeful, which contrasts nicely with how you start out in a giant shithole. And while the two other modes are mainly just spruced up arcade games, they're handled pretty decently, I'd say. I'd enjoy going through them again. Yeah, I really liked this. It's pretty impressive in how it sets the standard for everything you can expect from the future of this game, and there's an interesting air of intrigue around it. Even if it doesn't turn out to be too much, I think I'll still enjoy it, and I would love to see more of this concept run around with all sorts of different mystery games and narrative games, because there's so much you can do with it, even if a lot of these games might seem similar to most people. And I might as well just say this now because I have nowhere else to put this. There was a point where my character just sort of died thanks to my own carelessness. And you know, despite how funny that was, I actually kind of liked that idea. It really helps bolster what I was talking about before. So yeah, just keep an eye out for this one. I could do a couple more, but I feel like a lot of demos have already gotten their flowers, so I will finish this with Beholder Conductor. Now, I have no experience with the Beholder series. I have never even heard of these games prior to this demo. I thought this was just sort of a one-off, but I'm already on board with what this seems to have in mind. This immediately shows itself as a very careful game with a lot of stressful tasks. You have to think about everything you have to do. You'll quickly notice this with all the tasks on the screen piled onto you at once, and the general burden of your job. I have a feeling that they're going to do a lot with this just because of how much narrative mileage I got out of a single NPC in this. I learned so much about one of the earliest passengers I met, what she likes, what she's been through, and even things like her sense of charity. I was really interested in how humanizing this was regarding its really simple background characters. I would really love to see if they expanded on a lot of this further. Maybe you can give a faulty passport the benefit of the doubt, or maybe you can choose between your job and your coworkers, or maybe you can get your hands dirty even if you don't want to. Now, this is all just speculation and my own thoughts, but it seems like the creators have shown that they are more than capable of making this kind of stuff happen, and I'd love to see it in real time. I'm a bit unsure of how to cover this further since that would kind of mess with the mystique of the whole game, although I really think it's worth checking out. It seems like there's a lot of interesting things in this, whether it be about what you buy, who you talk to, what you interact with, and whether or not you're willing to break the rules to get what you want. Much like the train, the atmosphere of this game can only go faster and faster, and only forward. It really seems like you're going to have to live with the irreversible aspect of all of your decisions. And it'll be interesting to manage because I imagine as the game turns up the heat, your choices are probably going to get less rational and more frantic, only making things worse in the future. I see a lot in Beholder Conductor, and while it's not my favorite out of the demos I played, there's a couple that fit that spot, I don't think that should really change how you should feel about this. I believe every single game I've recommended here is interesting to some extent and might be for someone. And this one is the most out there and most out of comfort, and as a result, I heavily recommend it. This got delayed really badly. I guess that's what happens when life catches up on you, without you suspecting. I guess I should get used to this pattern of just going around once a month. After all, it does keep me in a nice little place, and it prevents me from getting too burned out or losing my way. If you do want to see shorter and funnier, just little goofy things, go over to this website and look at the pinned post. I swear it's worth it. Anyways, I'll see you all in the next Nextfest. I swear that one's not going to get delayed to oblivion. I will try my best. I will get my life together, I swear.